Hello, and welcome to our grammar lesson on pronoun case. Okay, so pronoun case, to start us off with this, I'd like us to look at these two sentences and then think about and maybe respond to either by writing down or telling a parent or a dog sitting next to you your answer to this question. So number one, for us, the best part of the movie involved the underwater scene. Number two, for we, the best part of the movie involved the underwater scene. The question you need to consider is which sentence above sounds correct, number one or number two. Why do you think that is the correct sentence? So take about 15 seconds to think about these two sentences. Number one is the correct sentence. For us, the best part of the movie involved the underwater scene. And odds are you probably knew just from hearing how strange number two sounded that it was incorrect. So today we're going to be talking about why number one is correct and number two is not correct. Why do we use us in this first sentence instead of we? To follow along in your grammar books, you can open up to page 61 and 62 in your grammar books. We'll be starting on page 61. So there are three types of pronoun case: nominative case, objective case, and possessive case. We'll be talking about nominative case and the objective case today. So deciding between us versus we in those past sentences had to do with, was the pronoun being used as a subject or was it being used as an object? So when you're looking in your grammar book, there's some list of pronouns there. You want to use the nominative case when your pronoun is acting as a subject of the sentence or performing the action, right? So is it performing the action? Then we're going to use nominative case. Then we're going to be using we. You'll use the objective case, the pronouns in the objective case, when your pronoun is acting as the object. It's receiving the action of the sentence. Okay, I'm going to break these down a little bit further. So the nominative case, you're going to use I, you, it, he, she, we, they, who, or whoever. Those are all pronouns in the nominative case when the pronoun functions as a subject or a predicate nominative. The subject of a sentence is the thing or person that performs the action of the verb. So when we're looking at this sentence, she and I went to the movies, I like to look at, okay, where's my verb in the sentence? So immediately I'm seeing, okay, the action is went. So because the action is went, now I want to see who or what is performing the action. And it looks like she and I are performing the action in this sentence. Thus I know she and I are the subject of the sentence. Predicate nominative. Predicate nominative is a word that follows a linking verb and remains the subject. Okay, a linking verb would include am, is, are, was, were, be, being, or been. Okay, so any of those linking verbs. So let's look at this sentence. The winner of the contest is she. So because she follows the linking verb is, we know we're going to need to use the nominative case, which would be she instead of her. When we're in the objective case, you're going to use pronouns me, you, it, him, her, us, them, whom, or whomever when the pronoun functions as an object. So an object is the person, place, thing that receives the action or comes at the end of a prepositional phrase. So let's look at some sentences. Kayla saw us at the movies. Okay, the reason we use us there instead of we is because I find the verb saw. Who is performing that action? Who or what is performing that action? That's Kayla. Kayla is the subject. Us is receiving the action. Who was seen? It was us. Okay, so Kayla is receiving the action there. Kimberly sent. I see sent in the sentence. That's our verb. Kimberly is the one that sent. So I know Kimberly is the subject, and him, because it's receiving the object, is our object. Or excuse me, it's receiving the action, thus we know it's the object, and it's going to be him instead of he. Between you and me, that was a terrible song. It's at the end of a prepositional phrase. It's also not committing the action, it's not performing the action of the sentence, so we know it's not the subject, but we know that it is an object because it is at the end of a prepositional phrase. Okay, so here are some quick tips before we get into our practice when we're talking about pronoun case. So when a subject or object is a compound, that just means when there's more than one, and it's because they're using and, right? So not they or them, but for example, Kennedy and I, or Kennedy and me. That and makes it a compound. So when that happens, you need to try each word separately with the verb or preposition. So let's practice here. Leo finished his project with she/her and Kennedy. So to decide between which one of those I'm going to use, I'm going to try each word separately with the verb. So what that means is I would just cover up. Actually, we're going to, if this works correctly, we're going to cross out, just for my practicing, just to check purposes. It'll go back in there later. I'm going to cross out in Kennedy, and I'm going to test it out. Leo finished his project with she. And now I'll try the other one. Leo finished the project with her. Okay, so in that sentence, trying each of it separately, I'm realizing that she is incorrect. Leo finished the project with her. Not Leo finished the project with she. So that's going to be a good tip for us to see how that works. Let's try another one. Jake and me, or I, went to the movies. So I need to decide which one of those I'm going to use. So I'm going to cross out Jake and, because I just want to try it by itself. Honestly, I think me and I, and when we have something and me or I, that's the trickiest pronoun case piece there is. So let's try this out here. Me went to the movies. I know that absolutely makes no sense. I went to the movies sounds much better, and I'm realizing that I is the subject in this sentence. So it's going to be in the nominative case, and it's going to be I. Okay, so Jake and I went to the movies. Okay, let's do some practice. Between you and I or me, no one here wants to participate in the project with she or her. No one told Miguel and I or me about the test. You must have been talking to Bob and hear him. I want you to pause the video now and take a minute to do this on a scratch sheet of paper. You could do it on your phone, make a note, however you would like to jot down these answers so you can test yourself. Okay, let's look at the answers. So between you and me, I know that's going to be a me because it's at the end of the prepositional phrase, which makes it in the objective case. Between you and me, no one here wants to participate in the project with her. So I'm looking at, okay, where's my verb in this sentence, in the second part of the sentence here? No one here wants. So wants is my verb. Who's committing that want? That's no one, which is kind of funny, but no one is indeed the subject committing this action. No one here wants to participate in the project with her. So because her is not performing the action, but her is receiving the action, we're going to use her in this case because we know it's going to be in the objective case. No one told Miguel and me about the test. So this is one of those where I tested out when I was thinking about this, so I crossed Miguel out. No one told me about the test. Let me try I. No one told I about the test. That doesn't make any sense. And who is committing the action here? No one. No one is performing the action, not me. Me is receiving the action. You must have been talking about Bob and him. Okay, so again, I might cross this out. No one is talking about, or no one has been talking, you must have been talking to him. You must have been talking to he. One, that doesn't sound right, and two, who has been performing the action in this? You, not Bob and him. So that's going to be in the objective case, not in the nominative case. So we know we're going to need to use him. One last rule we're going to look at before we end pronoun case, before we end this video on pronoun case, is the following. So who versus whom. The reason it's a separate section is because who and whom usually end up in some sort of clause in the sentence. So it needs to be, sometimes it's separate from the rest of the sentence, and so it needs to be looked at on its own. So we're going to use who or whoever when the pronoun is used as a subject or predicate nominative. So when we look in the following sentences, first we're going to look at the clause itself, and then we're going to figure out what is who, or what is the who or whom acting as in that clause. So when I look at my brother who lives in Fort Collins is an architect. So if I were to take this out, you can see my brother is an architect. My brother is clearly the subject of this sentence. My brother is performing the action. However, who lives in Fort Collins is its own little clause. So we need to look at this and the who kind of separate from the rest of the sentence. So in this case, even though the subject of the sentence itself is my brother, we're looking at who lives in Fort Collins. So what is this acting as in here? Is who performing the action? Who is performing the action? So it's in the subject. It is the subject of this clause, and that means it's going to be in the nominative case. And we know we're going to use who. When we look in this next sentence, Corbin and Trenton are young men who like rap music. So here I find the verb first, are. Okay, who's performing the are? That would be Corbin and Trenton. So they're the subject of the sentence, but that doesn't automatically make our who the object because who is in a separate clause, right? That's why it's in a kind of an exception or a special part of the pronoun case rules. So when we look at this, who like rap music? Who in this sentence is performing, or excuse me, in this clause, it's performing the action. Who like rap music? That's why we know we're going to use who instead of whom. And we look at this next piece. Use whom or whomever when the pronoun is used as an object. My brother, whom the committee selected to be the new architect, lives in Fort Collins. So in this case, and when we're looking at this clause in the sentence, I'm looking for the verb in this clause of the sentence. And the verb that I see here is selected. So who did the selecting here? That's the committee, not our who or whom. And if you notice, the committee selected to be the new architect, who or whom, or excuse me, whom is receiving the action here. So that is clearly in the objective case, and we would use whom as opposed to who. When we look at this next sentence, do you know whom the teacher selected? So I'm looking again, we have you and know, but we're looking at this specific clause here. So whom the teacher selected. In this clause, the teacher is the one performing the action, not whom. And whom is actually the one being selected by the teacher. So we will know we would use whom as opposed to who or whoever. Okay, so let's do some practice. Whoever slash whomever purchases the textbook will receive a free student workbook. I like a student who slash whom will understand the importance of reading. The principal will select who slash whom she wants to represent the school. So take a minute, pause the video. Remember, you're looking for, in the clause, who is who or whomever performing the action, or is it receiving an action? That's how you're going to know which one to choose. So go ahead and pause the video and test yourself. All right, let's look at the answers. Okay, in this first one, whoever purchases the textbook will receive a free student workbook. So I've found the verb purchases the textbook, or excuse me, purchases, and I know whoever is doing the purchasing, so that's going to be in the nominative case. And so we know we're going to use whoever. Whoever purchases the textbook will receive a free student workbook. And this next practice piece, I like a student who will understand the importance of reading. So we're looking at this one. Who will understand the importance of reading? Who is performing the action here? Thus, it's going to be in the nominative case instead of the objective case, and we're going to use who. The principal will select whom she wants to represent the school. The principal is doing the selecting, not whom. Whom is being selected. That's why we know we need to use whom as opposed to who. All right, this should be a good first introduction to pronoun case for you. I hope this helped.